Hello, everybody. I'm here with my mom. We're going to be talking about disc golf. So my mom has decided to start disc golfing, and she has not done it before, really. And we're going to talk about the very, very basics, the terminology, how to hold the disc, kind of how to throw it, and give some good recommendations for videos that explain everything better than I can. So I'm super excited that you decided to do disc golf. This is going to be fun.
Yes, I will be.
So I sent I ended up sending over kind of a starter pack. So you got your discs there. There we go. Look at that. All your
Yes.
discs. Um, and it ended up being what the Innova starter pack typically is anyways, even though I was kind of trying to make a difference. So what I got you two AVRs for putting practice.
Yes.
Which did I get? Yeah, the AVR. Yep.
And then
Uh,
we got Shark.
and I got the Shark as the mid range. Although I
Huh?
was really trying to do, I think it was the Rock or the Make. I can't remember which one's the neutral one. Either the Rock or the Mako, or ideally a Buzz. I was trying to get a Buzz because I love the Buzz, or an MD, which is my neutral mid range that I use. But they were all sold out because disc golf is apparently super popular now, and Infinite Disc didn't have a giant selection of lighter weight mid ranges. So I went back to the Shark, which I don't use anymore, but came in my Innova starter pack. And then I got you a Leopard, right?
Yes.
Yes, the Star Leopard, which is the mid range, or the excuse me, the fairway driver. I wish I had at the beginning, although for some reason I got a T-Bird. Oh no, my starter pack came with a Destroyer, and I hated it and still don't like the Destroyer. Don't like how it feels in my hand, even though it's like the most popular distance driver. And I went to the T-Bird instead of the Leopard for some reason, and I do love the T-Bird. But I think having the Leopard at the beginning, a little bit more understable, would have been good. So that's what I got you. Just with better plastic than what comes with the Innova starter pack typically. So that's the first thing I guess we can talk about is the different kinds of plastic. So typically each company has like their basic plastic. So I got you the AVR in the basic plastic because that's what most people use for putting because it's cheap and it doesn't matter that much if you're just putting. Um, Although I guess some people use fancy plastic for their putters, but I don't know. I like the way it feels in the basic DX plastic, I think it's called. And then I think I got you better plastic for the other two.
They do have a
Is it
different
more
feel.
shiny and a little bit
Yes.
less rubbery? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think I got you
Yes.
those in Star. I don't know. Innova has Star and they have Champion plastic. And I find that Star feels a bit better but breaks in a bit quicker. And Champion is like super sturdy. So you hit a bunch of
Well, this one,
trees.
the leopard actually says Star on it.
Yeah,
So,
Star Leopard. Yeah, I can tell from the stamp. Um, the other
so
one,
does the disc anywhere tell you what kind of
sometimes
plastic
it
it is,
does.
or
I
is
don't
it
know. Does it
just?
say on the shark?
Well, since I can't hardly read because I don't think so. No.
Okay, I don't remember. I think it's. I think I got you a premium plastic, so I think it's either Star or Champion.
So, how many different kinds of plastic are there?
I don't know. Each company has they'll list like 8 different kinds, but like two to
Oh,
three of
okay.
them are typically. So they'll have like their cheap plastic, their basic beginner plastic, which for Innova's DX. Every company has that. It's just it's that one because it's cheaper. And then typically they'll have 1 to 2 nicer plastics, and then they'll have like the glow in the dark version of that plastic, and then the metal flake one where they put little bits of metal flakes in there so it sparkles version of that plastic,
Okay.
and then they'll have like one random one that like floats uh, on in lakes, but it's super light. And then they'll have one, I don't know. They have a bunch of random ones that I never even consider. So I just try to figure out what their premium plastic is and what their cheap plastic is. And typically that'll cover things. Sometimes they have multiple cheaper ones. Some are more bendy or tacky. I haven't gotten really into it. I just want to know uh, which one's going to not break in super hard. Because what happens is if you get the cheap plastic, like is my example shark, Get the cheap plastic, it tends to warp faster once you start hitting trees and stuff,
Oh,
and it'll affect the way the disc flies more quickly. So sometimes you want that if you want it to break in. But typically you want it to try to remain relatively stable for your throwing discs. So you get the fancier plastic, which is just firmer, I guess. It holds its shape better over time after hitting things.
okay.
That's the main benefit of that kind of plastic. Also, just if you have a preference for how a particular one feels, um, you may have a preference there. So that's it with
Okay.
plastics. Um, Talking about the discs, there's also the four numbers on the discs. So you probably see, I don't know if all of them, all the stamps you got have the four numbers on them, but
They do.
they do, yeah. So we can explain what those mean. So the first number is the speed of the disc, and that's essentially, and I read this recently and it was a good explanation. It's how good the disc is at cutting through the air. So basically, if you look at it sideways, it's how like aerodynamic and pointy the disc is, which basically determines how like its maximum distance probably, with like a super far thrower. So
So like on mine, the driver is 6, the shark is 4, and then the putter's 2.
right, and you'll see if you hold them up like this, the putters will rounded and blunt. The shark looks exactly like this because this is also a shark, and then the leopard's a bit more pointy,
Oh yeah, it
bit
is.
sharper of an edge. Which as you get to more and more uh, higher disc, like this one here is, I forget, this is like the most overstable disc I've ever owned. It's a Raider. I got this at a tournament. Uh, and it's like a 14 speed or a 13 speed. And you can see it's very,
Oh,
uh,
okay. It's very thin looking.
very wide rimmed, as I'd say. It's also the width of the rim here. So you compare that to, sorry, you can tell it's overstable because I spiked it into the ground the last time I practiced. You also see the
So
width
the
of the rim, right? So this is like super wide here,
so
and then the
this is the
shark,
rim right here, right? This is
yeah,
the
yeah,
rim.
and the shark's a bit narrower there. So that
Like
just determines, yeah,
these two feel the same, but then the mid range feels like it's deeper. Does that make sense? Or
yes, it is. So it's deeper. The shark also has what's called a bead, which is that bit there where it kind of sticks out, and some people like that. Some people don't like it. I don't really have
oh,
a
I see.
preference.
Oh,
Um,
I see.
so
And the
you'll
other
see
one's
your
the
aviar and your leopard will not have a bead.
okay. I see the difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, Bead or no bead doesn't make a huge. It's just a feel thing.
Oh,
But
okay.
that's the speed. It's how wide and like aerodynamic that rim is, which makes it easier to cut through the air, which makes it potentially go farther. If
So
you
the higher the number, the I guess thinner is probably not the right term, but the higher the number, the
the
sharper.
wider,
It,
yeah, sharper, wider the rim,
okay.
which also it affects how it lands too. So a wider rim disc when it lands will tend to skip off the ground, um,
Okay. Say
because
that again.
it's,
The wider rim ones will skip
yeah. So
more.
the bigger speed, they'll tend to skip more. So if they come in at an angle here, they'll bounce and then skip off to like the left on a backhand throw. Your putter and your mid ranges, because they're more blunt, they're not going to necessarily skip as hard. They tend to hit the ground and just kind of in land quicker, I guess, or land softer than a driver disc.
So which one lands? Okay. Say that again. Which one
So
lands softer?
the slower the disc is, the softer it'll tend to land.
Okay. So the putter an approach one's going to land softer.
Yeah, so even if it lands at an angle, it'll kind of like crash and then stumble about and then fall down. If you have a driver that lands at an angle, there's a good chance it then skips up in the air and goes a bit further.
Oh,
It
okay. I
tends to
gotcha.
go to the left on a backhand throw further. So, for example, I have I use the T-Bird, which is my backup sitting up there on the display. And if I throw that one flat, it'll land at a nice shallow angle and it tends to skip forward really far. I also have one called the Firebird that if I throw correctly, it will if I throw it correctly, it's super overstable, so it ends up coming in to the left, and then it'll skip and sometimes go like 90 degrees left. So I can use that one to get around stuff sometimes, just playing the skip.
Okay, so
Um,
you use the term overstable. What is it? What's stable
Yes,
and what does
let's get
that
to
mean?
that. So the first number is the speed,
Okay,
which determines, which is determined by the shape of the disc, but also means how potentially how far it can go, or how well it cuts through the air. The second number is the glide. That's how I never have gotten a good explanation of what glide is. It's like how good it is at like staying in the air. So if you throw it and, it just kind of floats on the air a bit more. But I don't know. I don't really pay attention to that number very much.
okay,
Uh, the last two numbers determine the stability of the disk, or they explain the stability of the disk. They don't determine it. That would be ridiculous. Um, sorry, language joke. So the third number, the first of these two
okay.
numbers, is it's called the turn, and that's going to be how much the disc wants to on a backhand throw, how much it wants to kind of tilt over to the right and then start moving right. So
Okay, so the tilt to the right. Okay.
So the turn, yeah. So for instance, this is a bad example. Um, this shark, if you were to measure it against, like your shark probably has like a -4 turn because it's super, super light and beat in.
It's a -2.
Well, shark as printed is a 0.2. Anyways, this disc is super light, so it makes it more understable. So if I throw this, it like flips over like that and then falls to the ground because it's so light. And the lighter a disc is, the more unstable it'll be. So that means the more it's going to want to turn to the right. The printed number is based on like the mold shape, like the shape of the disc, but the weight can affect it as well. Anyways, third number is how much it wants to turn. So you'll see, I believe the shark and the AVR, the putter, both have a 0. So they tend
Yes.
to kind of hold whatever line they're on. So if you throw it flat, they're going to tend to just stay flat. If you throw it like this, they tend to just go off to the left. They just kind of hold whatever line you put them on, ideally. The last number is the fade, and that's how much at the end of the flight the disc wants to turn back left on a backhand throw, and crash down to the ground that way. So the AVR is what, like a 0.1 or something like that at the last two numbers.
Yes, 0, 1.
Yeah, so
And then
it's basically what we call a straight or a neutral disc. If you throw an AVR right, it'll go straight, it'll go how you want it, and then it just kind of falls to the ground like you're throwing a pizza. So it doesn't have much. It doesn't want to go either direction very hard at all, so you can kind of float it down.
okay, so going back to then the leopard driver, which is -2, 1. So the one, it's going to go pretty straight then because it's 1. The last number is 1.
It's going to, so if you throw it hard enough to get it, all of this is dependent on if you throw it hard enough. So if you throw it just super soft, it's going to become more stable. So it's going to crash down to the left. If you throw
Okay.
it at a decent speed, it's going to fly as the numbers indicate. If you throw it too fast for that disc, it'll become less stable. It'll fall off to the right. So, assuming you're throwing it at a decent speed, the leopard, if you throw it flat, it's going to turn over. And I've seen this; it's beautiful. It's a really fun disc. It kind of tilts like this. It drifts off to the right, and then it kind of slowly flattens out and then falls back to the left a little bit. Um,
So the
so that's what
negative
that
two,
-2 is. The -2 is that if you throw it flat, it'll actually tilt over and start drifting to the right. The 1 is that it will then fight its way back and end up falling down to the left.
so a negative number means it's going to go.
To the
A
right.
0 means it's going to be straight. Any negative number is going to make it go more to the right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So for example, um, I have a disc that I love called a Roadrunner, and I can't remember. It's like 9.5 -4.1. And I can throw it actually at an angle like this if I throw it hard enough, and then it'll turn back up and maybe even drift right a bit. If I throw it flat, it turns like this, and then it does this like big old banana curve to the right. Just because it's so understable, it has that -4. So that's called the
Okay.
stability of the disc. So if you add up the numbers and it ends up being a negative number, we call that understable. If you
And
add in
you're
those
talking about just
last
the
two numbers, yeah.
last two numbers. Okay. So like mine would end up being then a -1.
So it's like slightly understable or straight, or
Okay.
neutral, what you call it. If the number's within 1 or 2, it's close to being like straight or neutral. Um, Once you get past that, it becomes more stable. So if it adds up to a positive number, so like your shark, is would probably considered a stable disc. Although personally, I found my shark to be very straight, but I don't know. Theoretically, it's a stable disc. If it adds up to like more than 2, I'd say you'd call it overstable or super understable. Like in the example of my Roadrunner, that is a -4.1. Um,
Okay.
so that's kind of how you read the disc. That's how you determine how the discs are going to fly. Otherwise, it's just how it feels. Again, the type of plastic, the weight, and the speed at which you throw it affects things way more than the numbers necessarily until you get to kind of the speed that the discs are meant to be thrown on. So, for instance, your leopard, if you don't throw it, if you're not throwing it at least maybe 200 feet, you're probably not going to see that turn to the right. It'll probably try to stay relatively straight and then crash down to the left. And same with the other discs mostly. Um, I believe I got you the shark at a lower weight. Do you see the weight on the bottom? It should be like written in the middle.
Oh, on the back it's
On the
written.
back, yeah.
151.
Yeah, so that's quite light. So you should, when you're starting out, you should be able to throw that one more true.
Okay, and then
Um,
the driver's 162.
and that's a bit heavier. So I believe the maximum legal weight is 180 grams, and a lot of discs like come in at 175 grams. That seems to be like the what the pros prefer. My discs I tend to try to find around 165 to 170 because I don't throw it as far. And so I find that weight tends to be closer to what my expectations are of the disc. I got you that 150 weighted one just as kind of an experiment to see how much of a difference it makes between the 150 and the 160 weight, um, in how they throw at first. So
Okay.
if I threw that 150 gram disc at full speed with my arm speed, it would be very understable. It's going to turn over and crash off to the right. Um, but if you throw a bit slower, it may end up working out for you. Whereas a heavier shark might be too overstable. I don't know. So weight determines a lot.
Okay.
The heavier it is, the more stable it wants to be, um, and the lighter it is, the more understable it wants to be.
Okay. Well, we'll have to go out and practice.
Yeah,
Now you got to tell me how I'm supposed to hold this disc.
yeah. So let's talk
That's the
about
next
grips.
thing, or
Sure.
okay.
So there's kind of two basic grips that people use. One's called the fan grip, where your fingers are kind of spread out on the bottom. The other one
Like
is called
that.
the power grip, where you kind of tuck them in a bit more. Either
That
way,
doesn't that doesn't feel as comfortable. The power
yeah, I
grip,
didn't
maybe because
start with it, and I'm transitioning over to it, and I'm getting more used to it, but it does feel awkward to me. Because usually, like when you throw a frisbee, you typically fan grip it like a normal frisbee. That's just kind of the natural.
is there a certain finger on the bottom that you push in more? It's right,
So
or
what I've seen on my YouTube videos and such is that you want your thumb to kind of be, you don't want your thumb like back. You want to try to push it forward a bit relative to the rest of your hand.
okay,
Um, and I think that influences if you hold it back, you tend to throw nose up, so it floats up in the air, whereas you want to throw it parallel to the ground. And so if you push your thumb up, you're more likely, it helps that angle of releasing the disc parallel to the ground. Because I had a big problem where I'd throw it nose up like this and I'd lose a ton of distance. So I think the big thing is you want to try to push the thumb up a bit. Not to
Okay.
where it's uncomfortable, but it should be kind of, I don't know, it shouldn't be back where your hand is. It should try to be a bit further up like that.
So is
Um,
that okay on the back, or are they? So like most of my pressure's on these two fingers there.
yeah,
Is that right?
so it should be, for me, for my power grip, I put my pressure more on the index finger. When I fan grip it, I put more pressure on the middle finger, kind of pushing
Okay. So
into the meat of my thumb or the base of my thumb. That's kind of the
okay.
sensation I'm feeling there when I
So
fan
that's
grip it.
that. That's the fan grip. So power grip, which one? The index finger is the one where you're pushing in
Yeah, I
more.
don't know if that's correct. Don't quote me on that. But that's what's worked out for me.
Okay.
Um, and when I fan grip it, I do tend, that's what I use for my like my approach shots when I'm within like 150 feet, and I'm not going full speeds, and it's a little bit more delicate. Uh, I don't know. That's what's worked for me. The main thing is I know you don't want to like tuck your thumb back. That's gonna make you release it nose up. Uh,
When you want your thumb closer to the edge
yeah,
of the
and you
disc.
also don't want your thumb towards the middle or like falling off. You want it kind of pushing against the meaty part of the disc.
Oh, okay. So on both grips, the thumb should be on the edge of the disc.
Yeah, should be towards the edge, but not falling over the edge.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
I'll have to go practice and see what happens.
um, and then yeah, so that's the grip. Um,
How do you stand when you throw a disc?
yes. So the big thing that people mess up on the stance is that they stand with their feet like parallel to their target or like pointed. I don't know how to explain, perpendicular to your target, I guess. So that's what you do in regular golf, right? You kind of line your feet up so they're kind of pointed 90 degrees but lined up towards your target. In disc golf, you want it to almost be like for a backhand, you want it to be like a 45-degree angle. So um, when you run up, you're not stepping towards your target, you're stepping like 45 degrees in forward, which allows you to rotate your shoulders better. So if your feet are parallel to your target, you can't get as much shoulder rotation if I move my foot up and I'm sitting. But if I move my foot up here, I can get more rotation easier on my shoulder, which is going to get you more power. And you end up throwing it where you intend anyways. If you step just straight towards your target, you'll tend to throw off to the right on a backhand throw. Um, and that's not good.
So are
So
your
think
feet
of that 45-degree angle. Does that make sense?
are your feet like about shoulder width apart, or
They
I mean they
no,
a
they
little
should
bit
be wider than shoulder width.
okay, and are
Because if
they
you look like at the top pros, like they're carrying a lot of momentum, and what happens is they plant their front foot, and then they kind of push off their back foot a bit, and then push their body into that planted front foot, um, and so that requires a wide stance, or else you'll fall over.
okay, now is one foot a little bit more behind than the other foot, or are they?
What do you mean by
I
behind?
mean, like when I'm standing, is my right foot a little bit farther back, or am I standing level? I mean, how do I explain it? I'm trying to explain it.
The main thing is you want both feet to be pointed um, somewhere between like 90 degrees away from your target and maybe like 60 degrees. So you still want them pointed that way. The okay, let's do it here. So if I'm aiming at my face here, I don't want my feet like that. Um, I want this doesn't actually help that much. But you want it to be you want to step and then step off to the right a bit for your plant foot, for that right plant foot.
Okay, so okay, my left foot is okay because I'm right-handed. So my left foot, and then my right foot is it slightly forward or backwards compared to the left foot?
Forward.
Oh, a little
So
bit
so
forward.
let's say you were like you had your feet together and instead of stepping in line with your target, think of stepping 45 degrees forward from your target
Okay. I'll have to
for
watch the
that right
videos. I'm
foot.
not getting it.
Yeah,
It's not clicking in my brain.
watch the videos. That's the main thing with the stance. I would recommend starting off standstill. So you start in that stance and then you kind of rock back on your left foot, rock forward to throw, and that way you'll get better timing with your release and your shoulder turn and all that. I
Okay.
wish I had done standstill more. Once you get comfortable with that, you can do like a single step and then kind of a 3-step run up, and then you can work your way towards the full run up X step kind of thing. After once you get very comfortable, I'm having to pull back because I've realized that my timing's really bad. So I'm doing a much simpler walk up now to get my timing back under control before I try to get more power out of it. So I recommend starting with limited feet movement to make sure you have your timing on your throw.
So I'm not going to step. My feet are going to. I mean, I'll have the follow through, so my foot
Oh yeah,
won't
you'll
come
definitely follow. You should follow through, but
But I'm not going to take a step forward or do a.
yeah, I'd say don't take a step forward at first. Just put all your weight back on your left foot, release as you transition over to the weight on your right foot, follow through, step forward after you release. Um, and then
Is
once,
your follow through is like you follow through like all the way, and
yeah,
then you
for a
stop.
major,
Do you stop once you've thrown the disc? I mean,
typically, you kind of snap on the release, and then your body I just kind of let my body ride the momentum. You don't want to like jerk it to a stop.
okay.
So that typically for a full power throw typically means I rotate around and then I take a step with my left foot to balance. Um,
So now going back to the throws, your weight on the back when you start, it's on the back leg, and then it
yeah. So your
goes toward
weight
the
should
front.
be transitioning towards the
Shifts.
front to give you more
Okay.
power. Um, which is actually for the forehand, it's not as much about that. But for the backhand, you definitely want the weight shift to happen so that
And backhand
when
and
you're
forehand.
releasing it, most of your weight's on your front foot.
So backhand, forehand. Which way
Yeah.
is this one? Like
So a
that's
normal, what you think of as a frisbee throw, that's backhand. If you flip it over
uh
like this and throw it like you're
that's a
throwing a
forehand.
sidearm, like a sidearm baseball throw,
Okay, so
that's a
this is to the
forehand.
backhand. Okay.
The grip for the forehand, typically what people recommend is something like this, where you have your middle index finger pushed up against the rim. Um, you have your thumb kind of looped around, and you have like the whole disc like smashed into the webbing of your thumb. And then these fingers kind of just help balance it, but don't do much to the throw.
Okay.
Um, And then the point of the forehand is that it's much more of a snapping motion. So the backhand's longer, bigger rotation. The forehand should be a lot in your wrist. You want your wrist back, you want your elbow back, and then you kind of snap it through. I am currently relearning the forehand because my form was very bad, and I'm trying to regain it. Uh,
Yeah, that's the thing. I want to start out hopefully not having any bad habits or bad forms. So I'll
yeah,
watch the videos
Yeah,
and
watch the
switch it to
videos. I'd say just focus on the back end at first. That's what most courses seem to be designed around is a right hand backhand. Uh, Although ideally they should be more neutral. Um, and
so now
that's where you're gonna get the most power anyways.
okay, so what videos are you gonna send me?
Yeah,
Which
so
ones?
the best videos I found, the best series I found are from Latitude 64. And Foundation Disc Golf also has a couple good videos. But I'd start with the Latitude 64 videos. If you go to their YouTube channel, the last like year or so, they brought in this guy as like a marketing guy, and he didn't play disc golf, so they've been like chronicling, teaching him how to play and overcoming all the beginner mistakes. They're very funny. They're all Nord. I can't remember. Are they Swedish? I can't remember. Uh,
Okay, so when we go on the
up
YouTube,
in the Nordic areas.
okay, because then I'm new to all the YouTube videos too.
The
So
YouTubes.
once you get on the YouTube channel, there's different topics. You just pick which one you want to listen to, or is
Yeah,
there
yeah.
an order?
You should be able to see from the title they're not all instructional videos, but you should be able to figure out which ones are the instructional videos. If you
Okay.
go to Foundation, look for, I think they had a series called like Beginner's Guide. So if you look for that
Okay.
one, most of their videos are not instructional, so you might have to dig around for
Okay.
those. But I'd start with the Latitude 64 ones. They're very good, well made, and they cover, for me, like all of the basic stuff that I've had to learn over the last couple of years, or the last
Okay.
year and
Good.
a half or whatever. So yeah, that's the videos I'd start with. Um,
Okay.
Oh, let's talk about some terminology real quick. So we talked about overstable and understable. The other word you're going to hear a lot is hyzer and anhyzer. So for a hyzer, that just means the angle the disc is at. So on a right hand backhand throw, if it's tilted down towards the left, that's called hyzer. And if it's tilted towards the right, that's called anhyzer. Um,
So you purposely tilt your disc before you throw it that way.
Yeah, and that can do different things. So if you tilt it on anhyzer, it may like curve around to the right. If you opposite for a hyzer, if you have an understable disc that you throw on hyzer, it may actually just curve back up to flat. That's called a hyzer flip. So you start it on hyzer and then it slowly gets up to flat and then comes back down. Um, there's like what's called a flex shot. So if you have a very stable disc and you throw it on anhyzer, it'll curve around, but then it'll fight its way back and make this like S pattern. Uh, so that's some different terminology. Hyzer and anhyzer are probably the two most
So this is
popular
so
ones.
hyzer is like, I'm trying to get my disc on the camera. Hyzer is like
A little higher.
this.
So hyzer, yeah, it'll be if it's kind of tilted away from your body on a backhand throw toward to the left, like the
So,
lower parts on the left side of the disc.
okay, and then the other one. So, okay.
Yeah.
So which one's this one again? Hyzer or anhyzer?
Anhyzer if it's kind of going to go to
Up,
the right.
up, and then hyzer is one is okay.
So
I'll try to
the
try to
most
remember that.
natural way of throwing is actually a hyzer. Anhyzers are a bit awkward, and so you might find that you kind of automatically release everything on a hyzer. Though I would recommend trying to practice getting it flat, a flat release. So just
Okay.
nice and parallel to the ground to start. If you can do that consistently, and the rest it becomes easy. In throwing a
Okay.
hyzer and anhyzer is just a matter of a very small adjustment. What's some other terminology? So you have the basket, which is what you're throwing at. We've mentioned kind of like the four categories of discs. So you have putters, mid ranges, fairway drivers, which is the three categories I got you, and distance drivers. It's kind of an arbitrary thing. It's basically just dependent on the speed. Up to like speed 3 is considered a putter. 4 through 5 is mid range typically. 6 through 8 maybe is fairway, and then
What
9
is
and
that?
above.
Is that one of the numbers on the disc?
The speed number, the first one.
Okay, so repeat that again. What those are?
So typically, if it's like up to 3, it's considered a putter.
Okay.
If it's 4 and 5, it's typically considered mid range. 6 through 8 maybe is a fairway driver,
Okay, I see it.
and 9 and above is usually considered a distance driver. I don't know. It's kind of arbitrary.
Okay,
It's not that big of a
cool.
deal. But you'll hear, like, if you watch the pro tournaments, you'll hear announcers using, oh, he threw his fairway driver. Um, what's some other terminology? Oh, there's the circle. I know you've asked about this before.
Oh,
So
I did
yeah,
when I
so
watched you play.
yeah, so there's a 10-meter radius circle around the basket, so about 30 feet. And it's just there's a rule change in the circle. You can't step forward. You can't follow through with your feet. So once you throw the disc, you then have to you have to establish your balance behind your lie before you move forward. So you can't follow through.
Okay.
That's
So if you're slightly outside the circle, your follow through can take you into the circle, and that's okay.
Yes, as long as your lie starts outside the circle, you're fine.
Okay.
So it's just I don't know why that exists, but you'll hear the circle a lot. It's kind of like the goal is to get in the circle because
Because you're
within the
gonna putt.
circle, there's an expectation that you should probably make your putt. The
Okay.
pros are making like 85 to 90, like the best pros, 85 to 90% of their putts from within the circle. I don't know, for me, like my comfortable zone is more like 15 to 18 feet.
Okay, now, okay, and I know I practiced putting in your backyard in the basket. How far back do you typically practice? I know we went back. How far
So
back
I use this app called, what's it called? Putt 360. Let me look. Perfect Putt 360. Looks like that.
Okay.
And if you start a game, it has this thing here. Basically, it has you set up and do sets of 10 putts from 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 feet. And then you record how many you make, if you made the first or last one of each set, and you do that twice. And then a perfect score is 360 if you make everything, and then it scores you and can compete against yourself. So I have little sticks marking out 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 feet. And then
okay, and what's that app called again?
it's called Perfect Putt 360. I think it's like $2. So that's what I've been doing every day. I just posted my best score. Was it 2 days ago? There we go. I got a 177 on there you go, the 25th. 177, my best score. I was very excited.
Okay, so I'll have to order me a basket, obviously, so I can compete with you.
Yes.
On Perfect Putt. So it was called Perfect Putt.
Perfect Putt 360.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I use to practice putting. I don't think it's perfect, despite the name. I think the scoring system is a little bit too variable, but I enjoy competing against myself. So that's what I really want to practice is this inside the circle putts. I do occasionally practice longer, like 40, 50 foot putts, where I do kind of a jump step thing to follow through on occasion. But that's not my concern. What's that?
Do you do that one at home? The 40, 50, do you do
that one? Yeah, I can find space for that.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what space, the space I've got here. I'm pretty.
You got lots of space. Yeah, you could practice all kinds of stuff.
I've got an acre of, my only hazards are the canals.
Yeah, other than that, you gotta miss the canals. That'd be annoying.
Yeah, I need.
You might have to get. There's these little stick retriever things. Maybe you got to get one of those for the water hazards.
Yeah, because now the canals got filled up last week, so they're full, both of them.
Yeah.
Luckily, I have trees that block me, so yeah. So I'm fortunate to have a park in my own yard, basically.
Yeah.
Small park. Yeah. So.
It'll be you get multiple baskets and make a little like 3-hole course.
Well, I have to mow the lawn where they're being in the way. I want to mow over them with my riding lawnmower. I'll get one basket to start with.
Yeah. I think that's everything I wanted to cover for the basics. Like I said, I watch the videos. They know more than I do. Okay. But I know some things.
Okay, well then I'm going to watch the videos and I might order me a basket. I probably will. So then maybe when we talk next time, I might actually tell you how bad I throw the disc or how good I throw the disc.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Thank you for watching, everybody. Hopefully you learned a bit about the basics. I guess this will be my beginner's guide video.
For beginners.
For beginners. Learn the basic nomenclature and such. And yeah, if you liked it, go ahead and like the video, subscribe. I'll try and do videos at least once a week on my path to a 900 rating, and along with other stuff like this. So go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Real quick. So somehow I'm all new to this video stuff and YouTube stuff. Now the two links for videos you want me to watch. Now, do you somehow now post those? I mean, I know you told us, but then like if someone wants to exactly.
Oh yeah, I'll put it in the description. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't being very.
I'll put the links there in the description to those two channels. They're very fun. And maybe I'll throw in some other of my favorite disc golf channels in the description for various things. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody.
Okay, I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.